The year was 2145, and Earth had known about alien life for 20 years. The ships had come without warning, appearing in the sky above major cities around the world. Humans had reacted with fear at first, then wonder, and finally with the slow realization that they were very small fish in a very large pond. Adam Carter stood at the window of his small apartment, looking out at the Chicago skyline where an alien ship now floated permanently above the lake. He had been just a kid when they first arrived. Now at 35, he was a veteran of Earth's military conflicts with 15 years of Navy SEAL experience that seemed increasingly pointless in this new world. His phone buzzed. The message was brief. Opportunity for qualified personnel. Confederation recruiting today, downtown Hilton, Suite 405. Adam almost ignored it. The aliens, the Confederation as they called themselves, rarely had anything to offer regular humans. Most of their attention went to scientists and government officials. But something made him grab his jacket. Maybe it was the boredom. Maybe it was the growing sense that Earth was being left behind while the galaxy moved on. 3 hours later, Adam sat in an ornate hotel suite across from a being that resembled a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 arms and eyes that glowed faintly, yellow. "Lieutenant Carter," the alien said, its translator device making the voice sound almost human. "I am Recruitment Officer Traz. Your military record is most impressive." Adam nodded but said nothing. He had learned that aliens often had different ideas about conversation flow. "The Confederation is forming special units," Traz continued. "We call them external asset teams. You would call them mercenaries." "You're hiring human mercenaries?" Adam asked, unable to hide his surprise. "We are forming mixed species units from non-member worlds. Your Earth is not yet a member of the Confederation, but some of your people have skills we find useful." Adam leaned forward. "What's the catch?" Traz's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Direct. Good. The catch, as you say, is that the work is dangerous. The Confederation has been at war with the Crixian Empire for centuries. We need soldiers willing to take on missions others cannot. And what do we get in return? Payment in Confederation credits, advanced medical care, and should you survive the standard 10-year contract, citizenship for you and your family." Citizenship. The word hung in the air. It meant access to technology centuries beyond Earth's development. It meant the stars. Adam thought for just a moment before asking, "When do we start?" 1 month later, Adam stepped off a transport ship alongside 49 other humans, all military veterans from countries around Earth. The training facility stretched before them, a massive complex built into the side of a mountain on a world whose name they couldn't pronounce. "Welcome to what will likely be your death," said a gravelly voice. The speaker was nearly 7 feet tall with gray, rock-like skin and eyes that burned orange. Commander Kresh, as he introduced himself, was a Valkyrie, a species known for their toughness and direct manner. "You soft-skins are here because we need bodies," Kresh continued, walking slowly in front of the human line. "The Confederation needs soldiers who are disposable." A woman near Adam stiffened. Kelly Ross, former Army Ranger. Adam had met her. "During processing on the journey here, we're here to fight," Kelly said firmly, "not to be sacrificed." Kresh moved with surprising speed, stopping inches from Kelly's face. "You will fight. You will likely die. That is the reality of war against the Crixians. The only question is whether you will die uselessly or take some of them with you." The next day, training began. The humans quickly discovered they weren't the only mercenaries being recruited. There were 6 other alien species in their training group, all from worlds not yet part of the Confederation. The Brukai were massive 4-armed beings with thick hides that could resist small weapons fire. The Venturi were slender and quick, able to move faster than human eyes could track. The Talarians had natural telepathic abilities that made them excellent at coordination. The Morith could see in complete darkness and had reflexes twice as fast as humans. The Dresh had redundant organ systems that made them nearly impossible to kill with a single shot. And the Tsar were shapeshifters, who could blend into almost any environment. Compared to these aliens, Humans seemed painfully average. No special abilities. No natural armor, no enhanced senses. "Remind me again why they recruited us," muttered Sam Green, a former Marine who had become Adam's bunkmate. "Cannon fodder," replied Adam, watching as a Brukai easily lifted a weight that would crush a human. The training was brutal. Every day started before dawn and ended long after dark. They learned to use Confederation weapons, studied Crixian tactics, and ran combat simulations that left them bruised and exhausted, and the humans lost. They lost every training exercise, every simulation, every contest. They were always a step behind, always a bit too slow, always the first to fall. "The humans are weak," Adam overheard a Venturi say after they had once again finished last in a training run. "They will not survive their first real battle." Even among the mercenaries, a hierarchy had formed. The humans were at the bottom. After 3 weeks, Commander Kresh called the human squad together. "You are now Earthborn Unit Alpha," he announced. "Your first mission assignment has been processed." A hologram appeared showing a dense jungle world with 3 moons. Nexus 6, a mining planet currently occupied by Crixian forces. "Your mission is to disable the planetary defense grid to allow our forces to land." Adam studied the hologram. Something about this didn't feel right. "Sir, what's the expected resistance?" Kresh's orange eyes fixed on him. "1 Crixian battalion. Standard defenses." "And our insertion plan?" asked Kelly. "Drops you 50 miles from the target. You will make your way on foot to avoid detection." As the briefing continued, Adam noticed details that didn't add up. The operation seemed poorly planned. The intelligence was vague. The extraction plan almost non-existent. Later that night, unable to sleep, Adam slipped out of the barracks. He made his way toward the command center, staying in the shadows as he'd been trained. Outside Kresh's office, he heard voices. "The humans won't last a day on Nexus 6, someone was saying. "They don't need to," replied Kresh. "If they trigger the perimeter alarms, we'll know where the blind spots are in the Crixian defense network." "Expendable assets," the first voice. "Agreed. Precisely. The Brukai squad will be ready for the real mission once we have the data from the human insertion." Adam slipped away, his mind racing. It was a suicide mission. They weren't being sent to disable anything. They were being sent to die so the Confederation could gather intelligence. Back at the barracks, he woke Kelly, Sam, and a few others he had come to trust. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "We're being set up to fail, but I think I have a plan that might keep us alive and show these aliens exactly what humans can do." 3 months had passed since Adam Carter discovered the truth about their mission. Now, Earthborn Unit Alpha hovered in the atmosphere of Nexus 6, the jungle planet spread out below them like a vast green ocean. The dropship shuddered as it hit turbulence. "Final equipment check," Adam said, looking at the 12 humans who made up his squad. Their training had been brutal, but it had also forged them into a tight unit. Each person had found their role, their strength. Kelly Ross checked her sniper rifle one last time. Sam Green went over the explosives. Olivia Ward, their medic, made sure everyone had their emergency kits. Ben Howard, communications expert, tested their encrypted channels. "Remember," Adam said quietly, "they expect us to fail. They expect us to die. Let's prove them wrong." The dropship doors opened. One by one, they jumped into the hot, humid air of Nexus 6. They landed in a small clearing 5 miles from their intended drop zone, Adam's first change to the original plan. If the Confederation was monitoring them as bait, best not to be exactly where they were expected. "Status?" Adam asked once they had all regrouped. "All present, minimal equipment damage," Kelly reported. She was his second in command, the one he trusted most. The jungle around them buzzed with strange sounds. Massive trees reached hundreds of feet into the sky, their trunks wider than Earth's oldest redwoods. The air smelled of unfamiliar plants and decay. "According to the briefing, we have 7 days to reach the defense grid control station," Ben said, checking his datapad. 50 miles through this." He gestured at the dense vegetation. Adam nodded. "We move in pairs," Standard leapfrog pattern. Keep communications minimal. We're not here to fight unless necessary. They moved through the jungle like ghosts. The humans' smaller size compared to most of the other mercenary species now became an advantage, letting them slip through tight spaces in the undergrowth. On the second day, they found their first sign of Crixian presence, a patrol moving through the jungle. From their hiding spots, the humans observed carefully. The Crixians were tall, reptilian beings with natural armor plates and eyes that swiveled independently. They carried plasma rifles and moved with military precision. 8 of them standard patrol formation, Kelly whispered from her observation point. Adam made the decision to avoid contact. They slipped away and continued their journey, making a wide circle around the patrol route. On the fourth day, they came across something unexpected: the wreckage of a ship partially buried in the jungle. The markings identified it as belonging to the Venturi, one of the mercenary species they had trained with. This must be from one of the previous attempts, Sam said as they carefully approached the crash site. Inside the wreckage, they found bodies, not just Venturi but Brukai as well, another mercenary team sent before them. They didn't just fail, Olivia said as she examined the remains. They were massacred. Adam found a partially intact datapad and handed it to Ben, who managed to extract some information. This isn't good, Ben said after a few minutes. According to this, there isn't just one Crixian battalion on this planet. There are at least 3, and the defense grid is far more complex than we were told. The humans looked at each other, their suspicions confirmed. They had been sent on a mission designed to fail, sent to die. So what do we do? Sam asked. Call for extraction? Adam shook his head. And prove them right about us? No. We adjust. That night, they formed a new plan. Instead of a frontal approach to the defense grid control station, they would use what humans had always excelled at: improvisation and deception. On the 5th day, they captured a Crixian scout. It took 3 of them to subdue the larger alien, but they managed it without killing him. Ben, who had studied Crixian language patterns during training, interrogated their prisoner. They learned that the defense grid had a weakness. It needed to reset once every local day, creating a 30-second window where it was vulnerable. On the 6th day, they reached the perimeter of the control station. It was heavily guarded, much more than they had been told to expect. At least 50 Crixian soldiers patrolled the area, with automated turrets covering every approach. A direct assault would be suicide, Kelly said as they observed from a hidden position. Then we don't assault, Adam replied. We infiltrate. That night they put their plan into action. Sam and 2 others placed small explosives at various points around the perimeter, timed to go off in sequence. Ben hacked into the Crixian communication system using codes they had gotten from their prisoner. Olivia prepared medical patches that would temporarily block their heat signatures from Crixian scanners. Just before dawn, when the defense grid would reset, they triggered the first explosion, far from where they actually planned to enter. As expected, the Crixians responded, sending troops to investigate. A second explosion drew more away. A third created even more confusion. Meanwhile, Adam, Kelly, and Ben slipped through the now thinned perimeter defenses. They entered the control station through a maintenance tunnel their prisoner had revealed. Inside, they encountered 3 Crixian technicians. Kelly took them down with silent stun shots before they could raise an alarm. Ben worked quickly at the main console. I need 5 minutes, he whispered. Outside, the diversions continued. Sam and the others kept triggering small explosions at different locations, making it seem like a much larger force was attacking from multiple directions. 3 minutes until the next grid reset, Ben warned. Adam watched the door while Kelly covered the windows. They could hear the chaos outside, as the Crixians struggled to respond to what they thought was a major assault. Done, Ben finally said. When the grid resets, instead of coming back online normally, it will stay down. They slipped out the way they had come in. By the time the Crixians realized what had happened, the humans were already gone, melting, back into the jungle. From their rally point 5 miles away, they watched as the sky filled with Confederation ships. The defense grid was down. Their mission, the one they were supposed to fail, was a success. 3 days later, They were back on the Confederation base. Commander Kresh stared at them with his orange eyes wide in disbelief. "How?" he asked, simply when Adam delivered their report. "We adapted," Adam replied. "That's what humans do." Word spread quickly through the Confederation forces. The mission that had claimed 5 previous mercenary teams had been completed by the supposedly weak humans. Earthborn Unit Alpha had succeeded where the stronger, faster aliens had failed. And for the first time, when humans walked through the halls of the base, the other species didn't look at them with contempt. They looked at them with something new, respect tinged with confusion and perhaps a touch of fear. 1 year had passed since Earthborn Unit Alpha's success on Nexus 6. Now there were 10 human units serving the Confederation, all showing the same surprising effectiveness that defied explanation. Commander Kresh stood in the observation room, watching Earthborn Unit Delta train. As the military officer assigned to oversee all human forces, he had spent months trying to understand what made these physically unremarkable beings so effective in combat. "Still studying your pets, Commander?" asked Admiral Zux, a high-ranking Confederation officer who had just entered the room. Kresh's orange eyes narrowed. "They are not pets. They are soldiers. Good ones." Below them, Captain Sophia Wright led her unit through a combat exercise. She was smaller than most of her squad, with short brown hair and quick movements. Despite her size, she commanded complete respect from her team. "Their physical capabilities are average at best," Zux said, watching a human male struggle to lift a weight that a Brukai child could handle. "Their senses are dull compared to the Morith. They lack the natural armor of the Crixians. They cannot move as fast as the Venturi. What makes them special?" Kresh had asked himself the same question many times. "I intend to find out," he said. "I am accompanying Unit Delta on their next mission." The mission was to extract a captured Confederation scientist from a Crixian research station. The scientist, a Talarian named Vex Noor, had been developing new shield technology when he was captured 3 weeks ago. As Kresh watched the humans prepare, he noted behaviors that puzzled him. They joked about death. They spent hours discussing unlikely scenarios. They formed bonds quickly, treating newly assigned squad members like old friends within days. "Why do you waste time planning for events with less than 2% probability?" Kresh asked Captain Wright, as she outlined a contingency plan for a station-wide power failure. Sophia looked up from her datapad. "Because 2% isn't 0. And because the plans that save your life are usually the ones you didn't think you'd need." The team of 8 humans plus Kresh departed on a stealth ship the next day. Their target was a small research station orbiting the gas giant Keltor 7. Intelligence suggested minimal defenses. The Crixians relied on secrecy rather than force to protect this location. As they approached in their stealth ship, Ben Howard, who had been transferred to this unit after his success with Unit Alpha, scanned the station. "Something's not right," he said, frowning at his equipment. "I'm picking up way more power signatures than expected, and the defense grid is much stronger than intelligence reported." Kresh moved to look at the scanner. "Could be equipment malfunction." Ben shook his head. "No, sir. This is accurate. That station has been significantly upgraded since our last intel." Captain Wright gathered her team. "This changes things. New plan." Kresh watched with growing interest as the humans quickly adapted their approach. Instead of their original insertion point, they would now use a maintenance airlock on the station's underside. Instead of a direct route to the detention area, they would take a longer path through the service corridors. "The Crixians know we're coming," Sophia said plainly. "This is a trap." "If it is a trap, we should abort," Kresh stated. This was standard Confederation protocol. The humans exchanged glances. Then Sophia smiled. A gesture Kresh had learned indicated not just happiness but sometimes determination or even aggression. "No," she said. "If they're expecting us, let's give them something unexpected. We're switching to Plan Z." "Plan Z?" Kresh asked. This was not in the briefing materials. "That's because we just made it up," Sophia replied. "Here's what we're going to do." The plan she outlined seemed completely irrational to Kresh. Instead of stealth, they would announce, their presence. Instead of avoiding alarms, they would trigger them deliberately. Instead of moving as a unit, they would split up and take different routes. "This is madness," Kresh said when she finished. "You will all be captured or killed." "Maybe," Sophia admitted. "But they won't be expecting madness, they'll be expecting logic." The mission began with their stealth ship firing upon the station's communications array, an act that immediately announced their presence. Alarms blared as they docked, not at the planned maintenance airlock, but at a primary cargo bay. The team rushed out, firing weapons and creating as much noise as possible. They moved deeper into the station, drawing Crixian forces after them. Meanwhile, Sophia, Ben, and Kresh slipped away in the opposite direction, using the confusion to move toward the detention level. "Your team members are sacrificing themselves," Kresh said as they moved through the now mostly empty corridors. "No," Sophia replied calmly. "They're creating a diversion. There's a difference." They reached the detention level and found it suspiciously unguarded. The cell where the scientist was supposedly held was empty. "As I suspected," Kresh said. "This was indeed a trap." Ben was scanning the walls with a handheld device. "The real detention block is hidden," he said. "Behind this wall, there's a secret passage." They found the hidden door and passed through into a corridor not on any station schematics. At the end was a secure door, behind which they found not just the Talarian scientist they had come for, but 3 other Confederation prisoners. As well. "How did you know?" Kresh asked as they freed the prisoners. "We didn't," Sophia admitted. "But human history is full of secret prisons and hidden captives. We guessed the Crixians might think the same way we do." As they made their way back, station-wide, alerts indicated that multiple escape pods had been launched. The Crixians were diverting forces to recapture these pods. "Your team?" Kresh asked. Sophia nodded. "Empty pods. Another diversion." They reached the cargo bay to find their ship secured by the rest of the team, who had circled back after leading the Crixian forces on a wild chase through the station. As they escaped, Kresh watched the humans with new understanding. They had succeeded not despite their seemingly chaotic approach, but because of it. Back at the Confederation base, Kresh filed his report. In it, he wrote, "The humans' greatest strength appears to be what we would consider their greatest weakness, their unpredictability. They do not follow optimal paths. They create chaos deliberately. They plan for the improbable. Most concerning of all, they seem to thrive in conditions that would cause other species to break down." Word of the mission's success spread quickly. The story grew with each telling, how humans had brazenly attacked a Crixian station, freed multiple prisoners, and escaped without a single casualty. In the mercenary bars across Confederation space, soldiers began sharing stories about the Earthborn units. When such stories started, even the bravest alien mercenaries would grow quiet, listening with a mixture of disbelief and growing respect and fear. Though none would admit it, there was definitely fear. 5 years had passed since the first Earthborn unit was formed. The dingy bar on Outpost Station 12 was filled with mercenaries from a dozen different species. This remote space station served as a neutral ground where soldiers of fortune could rest between missions. In a dark corner sat a group of Tarsian mercenaries. They were reptilian beings with scales that shifted color slightly based on their moods. Their leader, Drex, was telling war stories to a younger Tarsian who had recently joined their crew. "Next week we hit the human outpost on Vega Prime," the young Tarsian said, showing sharp teeth in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Should be easy money. Humans are soft." The older Tarsians went quiet. Their scales darkened to a deep blue, a sign of fear among their kind. Drex took a long drink from his cup before speaking. "You've never faced humans before, have you?" The young one's scales flashed a confident orange. "How tough can they be? They have no natural weapons, no armor. They're just walking meat." An older Tarsian named Krell made a low hissing sound. "I faced Earthborn Unit Gamma on Terex Prime. There were 20 of us and 8 of them." Now other mercenaries in the bar were listening too. Stories about Earthborn units always drew attention. "Terex Prime is an ice world," Krell continued. temperatures that should kill warm-blooded species. We thought this would be our advantage. We were wrong. Krell described how his team had tracked the humans across frozen wastelands, how they had set up a perfect ambush near a narrow pass between ice cliffs. We had them trapped, no way out. We opened fire. Krell's voice dropped lower. They didn't run. They didn't surrender. The first thing they did was shoot at the ice above us, created an avalanche that buried half our force. The young Tarsian scales were no longer orange. Lucky shot. No, Krell said firmly. Planned. They led us there deliberately. Used our own trap against us. From another table, a Venturi mercenary with silver skin joined the conversation. On Dracon 3, I saw a human soldier cut off from his unit. Surrounded. 6 hours he held position. 6 hours with a broken leg and limited ammo. How did he survive? Someone asked. He didn't, the Venturi replied. But he took 7 of our best with him, and he was smiling at the end. Smiling. More stories followed. A Brukai told of humans using psychological warfare tactics that seemed to border on cruelty. A Morith described humans functioning without sleep for days. A Tsar spoke of human soldiers sacrificing themselves for teammates they'd known for mere weeks. The Crixian Empire now offers triple payment for missions where humans might be present, Drek said. Triple, think about that. The young Tarsian's scales had shifted to pale gray. Uncertainty. But why? What makes them so different? At that moment, the bar door opened and 3 humans walked in. The room went silent. They were Earthborn Unit Alpha members, recognizable by their distinctive black and silver uniforms. The leader was Adam Carter, now a major, his face bearing scars that hadn't been there 5 years ago. The humans seemed not to notice the silence as they made their way to the bar, or perhaps they were simply used to it. That's Major Carter, whispered Drex. His unit has the highest success rate in Confederation history. Meanwhile, on the Confederation command ship Destiny, Colonel Adam Carter stood before the War Council. 5 years had changed him. He was leaner, harder, with gray beginning to show in his dark hair. The left side of his face bore burn scars from a mission 2 years ago. The council consisted of high-ranking officers from all major Confederation species. At the center sat Supreme Commander Zelos, an ancient Talarian whose telepathic abilities had guided the Confederation for decades. Colonel Carter, Zelos began, we have been analyzing what makes human units so effective. Our findings are interesting. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing combat data, psychological profiles, and mission results. At first, we believed it was simply your species' unpredictability, Zelos continued. But that is only part of the picture. What truly sets humans apart is something more complex. The display shifted to show human brain scans next to those of other species. Most sentient species excel at one of 2 approaches, explained a Valkyrie scientist. Either they are highly individualistic like the Venturi, or they are completely collective like the Tsar. Humans somehow manage both simultaneously. Adam looked at the data with interest. He had never thought of humans as special. To him, they were simply doing what came naturally. Your social structures allow for fierce individualism and complete, selfless cooperation at the same time, the scientist continued. In combat situations, this creates units that can both follow orders exactly and improvise when needed, without losing cohesion. Adam thought about his team, about Kelly, who would argue with him fiercely during planning but follow his orders without question once a mission began. About Sam, who liked to work alone but would risk his life without hesitation for any team member. There is something else, Zelos said, leaning forward. Something we find most concerning. Humans appear to have evolved differently than any other known species. The hologram showed evolutionary trees for various species. Most intelligent species evolve by overcoming environmental challenges or predators, the Valkyrie scientist explained. Their primary threats were forces of nature or other species. Adam nodded, wondering where this was going. Humans are different, Zelos said. Your primary evolutionary pressure was yourselves. You competed against your own kind, forcing constant adaptation and counter-adaptation. This has no parallel among Confederation species. The council chamber was silent for a moment. Then Supreme Commander Zelos spoke again. The Confederation wishes to formally offer Earth membership, Colonel Carter. Full membership, not the probationary status usually granted to developing worlds. Adam was stunned. Earth had been told it would take at least a century to reach full membership status. Why now? He asked. Zelos's expression was unreadable. Because we believe it is in the Confederation's best interest to have humans fully integrated into our society. The alternative. The alternative was left unspoken, but Adam understood. The Confederation feared what might happen if humans remained on the outside, selling their services to the highest bidder. They were being brought in not just as allies, but to ensure they didn't become enemies. As Adam left the council chamber, he thought about how far humans had come in 5 years. From dismissed as weak, to feared and respected enough that the Confederation was changing its own rules. The legend of Earthborn units was growing, and with it the uneasy question that many alien species were beginning to ask. What would happen if these unpredictable, adaptable beings ever turned against them? 10 years had passed since the first Earthborn unit was formed. Earth had changed dramatically in that time. Confederation technology had transformed human society. Gleaming cities reached into the clouds. Diseases that once claimed millions of lives each year were now easily cured. Humans had established colonies on 12 worlds with more planned each year, but all of that was now in danger. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Command ship Intrepid, General Adam Carter studied the holographic display with grim focus. His hair was fully gray now, his face weathered by a decade of war. The burn scars on the left side of his face had faded somewhat, but remained a reminder of battles past. "They're really coming," said Admiral Kelly Ross, who stood beside him. She had been with him since the beginning, from Earthborn Unit Alpha to the highest ranks of Earth's new military. The display showed 300 warships approaching Earth. The Dark Claw fleet of the Crixian Empire, commanded by High Admiral Zorn. In all the long centuries of the conflict between the Confederation and the Empire, the Dark Claw fleet had never known defeat. "Time to arrival?" Adam asked. 24 hours, Kelly replied. "Confederation reinforcements won't get here for at least 3 days. Earth would face this threat alone." Adam turned to the communications officer. "Send the signal. Operation Last Stand is now active." Throughout the Earth system, hidden defense platforms powered up. Civilian ships that had been secretly modified for war moved into position. On Earth's surface, defense centers prepared for possible ground invasion. "You really think we can win this?" Kelly asked when they were alone. Adam looked at her. "We have to. We've spent 10 years preparing for this moment." The Crixians had launched this desperate offensive for one reason: to eliminate Earth before humans became fully integrated into Confederation society. Their intelligence reports had identified humans as the greatest long-term threat to the Empire. In his quarters, Adam reviewed the final defense plans. Earth had spent the past decade studying Crixian tactics, technology, and psychology. While most of the planet enjoyed the benefits of Confederation membership, a secret program had been developing weapons and strategies specifically designed to counter Crixian forces. "General," his AI assistant announced, "High Admiral Zorn is broadcasting a message to Earth." The screen lit up to show the Crixian commander, a tall, powerfully built reptilian with black scales and eyes like burning coals. "People of Earth," Zorn began, his translator making his voice sound unnaturally smooth. "Your world stands alone. The Confederation cannot save you. Surrender now, and your population will be spared. Resist, and we will turn your cities to ash." Adam didn't respond to the message. Instead, he sent orders to all Earth forces. Begin deployment of phases 1 through 3. Maintain communication silence. As the Dark Claw fleet approached Earth's orbit, they encountered no resistance. No ships challenged them. No weapons fired. "The humans surrender without a fight?" Zorn asked his officers on the bridge of his flagship, the Emperor's Fist. "No surrender message received, Admiral," replied his second-in-command. "But our scans show their defense fleet has not left orbit." Zorn's eyes narrowed. "A trap, then. Our intelligence indicates their technology is far inferior to ours," the officer reminded him. "What trap could they possibly set that would threaten the Darklaw fleet?" "These are humans," Zorn said, almost spitting the word. "Expect the unexpected." As the Crixian fleet moved into Earth orbit, they finally encountered the planet's defenders, a small group of 50 ships that seemed to be their main defense force. "Pathetic," Zorn's weapons officer said. "Their fleet is tiny," but Zorn remained cautious. "Why would they oppose us with such a small force? Begin scanning for cloaked ships or hidden weapons platforms." The scans revealed nothing. The Earth defense fleet was exactly what it appeared to be, a hopelessly outmatched force facing a vastly superior enemy. "Fire at will," Zorn ordered. The Crixian weapons blazed. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward Earth's ships, but instead of exploding or trying to evade, the Earth vessels shimmered strangely. The Crixian weapons passed right through them. "Holograms!" Zorn shouted. At that moment, the real attack began. Small, one-man fighters emerged from hiding places throughout the debris field that surrounded Earth's orbit. These were not the advanced ships the Crixians had expected, but simpler craft that human pilots could fly manually if their computers were disabled. Simultaneously, civilian cargo ships that had been hiding in plain sight suddenly dropped their disguises, revealing weapons systems. The Crixian fleet, prepared for conventional space warfare, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight conventionally. The human ships didn't form battle lines or follow standard tactics. They swarmed like insects, targeting specific weak points that human intelligence had identified in Crixian ship designs. "They're focusing fire on our sensor arrays," reported Zorn's tactical officer, "and targeting our engine exhaust ports. These were not vital systems, but their loss reduced the Crixian ship's efficiency. It was death by 1,000 cuts rather than killing blows." As the space battle raged, Zorn ordered ground forces to land on Earth. But here, too, the humans had prepared surprises. The Crixians found not organized military resistance but a planet where every citizen had been prepared for invasion. In North America, Crixian troops were confused by false signals that led them into ambushes. In Europe, they encountered cities that appeared abandoned but were actually filled with hidden defenders. In Asia, they faced terrain that had been subtly modified to channel them into kill zones. On the Emperor's Fist, Zorn received increasingly desperate reports from his ground commanders. His fleet, while still largely intact, was being worn down by constant harassment from the human forces. Then a small fleet appeared at the edge of the system. Just 20 ships, led by a vessel Zorn recognized, the Intrepid, Earth's flagship. They held back their main force, Zorn realized. "Let them come, we will destroy them." But as the Intrepid approached, Zorn's sensors officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, their weapon systems are impossible." The Intrepid fired. Its main weapon was not the standard Confederation energy beam, but something new, a hybrid technology that combined human ingenuity with Confederation science. The beam cut through the Crixian flagship's shields as if they weren't there. "How?" Zorn demanded. "How did they know the exact frequency to penetrate our shields?" Adam Carter's face appeared on Zorn's screen. "We've been studying you for 10 years, Admiral. We know more about your technology than you do." The Emperor's Fist shuddered as more hits landed. Systems failed throughout the ship. For the first time in his long career, Zorn gave the order he had never expected to give. Retreat. The Darklaw fleet, the pride of the Crixian Empire, withdrew in disarray. The battle for Earth was over. Humanity had prevailed. In the aftermath, as Confederation reinforcements finally arrived, the legend of the Earthborn only grew stronger. The story spread throughout the galaxy. How humans had defeated the undefeatable, how a supposedly primitive species had outthought and outfought an enemy with centuries more experience. Years later, a young alien recruit would ask a veteran why everyone went quiet when Earthborn units were mentioned. The veteran would explain that humans weren't just effective fighters. They were the only species that evolved primarily by competing with themselves rather than with nature. Think about what that means, the veteran would say. Every other species in the galaxy evolved to survive their environment. Humans evolved to survive each other. They are their own worst enemies, which makes them the worst enemies for anyone else too. Throughout the galaxy, in dark corners of spaceports and mercenary bars, the mere mention of Earthborn units continued to cause conversations to halt and eyes to shift nervously. Not because humans were the strongest or fastest or most technologically advanced, but because they were the most unpredictable, the most adaptable, and perhaps the only species that seemed to thrive when everything went wrong.